what is your big takeaway from this episode?
Kind of like this episode, my wrap up or my takeaway is kind of short and sweet because it was just enjoyable to watch this episode. I loved the humor and the lightness that this episode held. So while I was still worrying that something bad might happen, it never did. So then at the end, I felt just like this warm, cozy feeling when it wrapped.
I wonder if you went back and watched it, how much more you'd like it, knowing that there's no impending doom.
Yeah, I think there was a layer of impending doom that I think the combination of knowing it's the finale and then also there's still a lot of conflict that can happen in this universe, a lot of things they could play with. So I think I'm always preparing myself for, what's next? And then that never came. And then the wedding of my dreams finally happens. Just seeing Claire and Isaac get their happy ending was really, really enjoyable. And just that Isaac arrived at asking Claire to marry him on his own. Just like, I just really like how that was written. Like I said, I feel like the whole episode is very sweet. It's just a sweet episode. Like, just like Dan likes to say, sweetness, but also just sweet in the sense of there's playfulness between the crew. It was just a kind-hearted, warm episode where I sadly feel like a lot of things got tied together. There is no cliffhanger or oh my gosh, and then they cut to the credits, right. Which a lot of shows do. And in some ways, I really appreciate that they did that because then I get to walk away feeling complete with this season. This whole season has made me feel satisfied, and I'm not leaving. Like, I'm sad the season's over, but I feel like satiated. My sci-fi has been satiated. I'm going to miss it. I just really hope that there will be more stories to come because I don't feel like this crew and the people who make the show are done telling stories. I really hope to goodness that they're not. I guess looking at the show more analytically, getting to see the union in the world through Lycella's eyes was very interesting to me. I loved the commentary about how Sargus 4 is similar to Earth and how you can't introduce future tech into those environments without the right things being set up in place. It's like dominoes. Oh gosh. Everything has to be right. And learning about the union and the union's past, I really, really enjoyed because I do feel like we haven't gotten a ton of that. And we got to see more about why they do what they do and how the union functions. And Lysella facilitated that. I loved the bit with Bortus and Clyden at the beginning, and just the fact that their whole relationship this entire episode made me very happy. So I see what you're saying. I want them to be happy too. I really appreciated how supportive Clyden was of Bortus's endeavors. And that was just fun to watch. I feel like I'm not manifesting this. I'm just saying it felt like a nice end to things. And I'm just here hoping, crossing my fingers, praying that there is a season 4 of the Orville because I really do feel like satisfied from this season, but I really want to hear and see more stories from them. And that's my big takeaway from this episode. What about you, Rob?
I like this episode. Tonally, it felt like a combination of everything we've seen on the show so far. It was a bit lighter and it had more humor than probably any other episode this season. With the Lysella storyline having the social commentary elements that we've also seen throughout this season and throughout a lot of the rest of the show. I'm glad they didn't try to do something with bigger stakes than Domino, because that just was not going to happen.
I think that after Domino, it would have been a lot to have like something equally or bigger than that to end the season. I just feel like this is also very Orville style. Like when you look at past seasons, like Identity in part 1 and 2 kind of feels like it would be a season ender, but it's not. And I kind of love that because I think it's so different than most shows, like the route that they normally take.
Yeah.
It's like trying to leave people wanting more, and like, I want more, but I didn't need that, like, I'm holding on to the edge. What's going to happen in 9 months? You know?
Right.
But I still want more, but it's because I want more stories, not because they're leaving me hanging.
Yeah. Like I said before, Majority Rule was my favorite episode from season 1, so I was very happy to see an element from that carry over into this season. However, I'm not sure this was the right place for Lycella's story. The social commentary was great. I really enjoyed the discussions they had, but a lot of her story in this episode was an introduction to how the Union and the ship works, and something like that I feel would have been great at the beginning of this season for new viewers who are just coming into the series. So if they were just starting off by catching the show on Hulu when they hadn't seen it on Fox, these conversations, this introduction to the Union, how their society works, the different parts of the ship, she got like a mini tour of stuff. That would have been a great entry point, and Lysella acting as like the audience seeing things for the first time.
Well, I've been watching the show for so long that like I was fine with where they placed it, but you know, I can see from like a new viewer perspective, it would have been an entry point for anyone who just was like, what is this about? But do you think most people start on a later season of a show?
I think some mainstream people might.
Yeah, I'm that person who's like, I gotta start at season 1, episode 1. But I know there's people out there. Yeah.
Even still, it feels like a weird thing to do during the last episode of a season, regardless.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. I just think I enjoyed the commentary so much that I completely didn't even think about that. I was like, this is so interesting because I compare a lot of our reality to what the future reality is.
Same,
and I know that the writers do that too. They try to create parallels so we can have reference points and be like, oh, this is definitely talking about this thing. And I feel like this specific episode, Lysella came out of nowhere a little bit. I can totally see that. But I really liked what they did with it.
Yeah, I like what they did with it. I just think it belonged somewhere else. But the story in and of itself, I really liked it.
Yeah, I guess you could technically pick up Lycella's story and move it to any other episode.
Yeah, you could have pulled it out of this episode and it doesn't hurt the episode at all. The rest of the episode was fine with or without it. So I feel like this was maybe something left over that they decided this was the place they wanted to put it.
Yeah, it makes me curious. I mean, I feel like Lysella is now a part of the Union.
It's certainly possible.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see where she'll end up. In the future seasons.
What I liked most about this episode is also what made me the saddest about it. Because, like you, this feels very much like a goodbye in the way it's wrapping up several storylines. Claire and Isaac got married. Alara returned for a little reunion. And Ed and Kelly had a moment that was just enough to where you could extrapolate that into the end of the will they, won't they question. You could say, oh, if we get no more of this, then we can imagine from this point on that Ed and Kelly got back together because they gave us a little hint in that direction. If this is the end, which again, I'm hoping it's not, I do appreciate them addressing everything that they felt like they had time to. It doesn't end every storyline that's been running throughout the course of the series, but that is an impossible task to take care of. But the fact that they got so much done in this one, there are so many shows that leave on a note of not satisfying because there were still too many very important lingering threads. And I feel like if this is the end of this show, then I can be satisfied with what they gave us going out. So on that, I'm very appreciative.
Yeah, I think it does feel kind of like they tied some stuff in a pretty little bow on top. And I think I'm trying to ignore that. Because
I understand.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where I don't want to admit that this was I don't even like saying the word.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I should say it or not. See, I feel like we've manifested things and I don't want to put anything bad into the universe. I think that this is a great wrap up to season 3. There's many more storylines they can explore in season 4.
There are. Anaya's still out there.
Anaya, what about John and Tala? Like, I could go on. Gordon's several bodies that are in different universes, apparently.
And they're leaving things in a place where they're not definitive. Ed and Kelly holding hands could be addressed as just a caught in the moment type of thing.
Listen, the writing literally is so good at the end of this episode because it could satisfy that sadness of a show ending, but it also leaves things open.
And that's what I appreciate most about it.
So, I just don't want to, like, it's like if I say it out loud that it's like...
Then don't say it.
I won't. I'm not gonna.
Ultimately, in a season of rising tensions, this episode felt like a downbeat. It was a chance to breathe, and that's something I am totally okay with. Like I said, I didn't need the stakes to get even higher than Domino. I appreciate us stepping back, taking a collective sigh of relief from the nonstop things that we've had going on all season, the heavy stuff. I just hope that, like we said, it's not an actual goodbye, and we have many, many more seasons ahead of us.
Which we will. I do feel like the Orville universe is one of my favorites, obviously, and the community behind it is very vocal about how much they love it. So whatever the future brings, I think we'll all be ready for, but I know there's a lot of people who would be so excited about more Orville.
2 of them right here.
2 of them right here.
Before we get out of here, we have one more thing to do, because Katie's husband, Mark, is also a big fan of the Orville and always leaves us with his 1-sentence review.
I'll go get him.
All right.
I think after the intense season we just had, this is the kind of episode we needed. I'm keeping my fingers crossed and hoping for more great seasons in the future!
Hey, thank you so much for watching. This is just a segment of the full podcast that Rob and I do. So if you want to hear more of our thoughts and full episode discussions, go to thegeekgeneration.com/quantum drive.